Have you ever feared that you have committed the unpardonable sin? The sin so heinous, so bad, so awful, something that you have done that God would look at you and say, I simply cannot forgive that sin. I have. I felt that way when I was in high school one time. I remember laying in my bed and just bawling, crying so loudly that as my dad walked down the hall, he heard me crying and he poked his head in and asked me what was wrong. And I've never been so grateful for a godly father who knew the Lord and knew the Scriptures, and he sat down beside me in grace and in compassion and in knowledge. He read to me verse after verse after verse to persuade me that I had not committed the unpardonable sin. And whether or not you have had an experience like that, my guess is there's some people in your class who wonder, have I committed the unpardonable sin? And that's what we're going to talk about today, and I want you to give your people the gift of knowing that they have not committed the unpardonable sin. Now, a little note about teaching. The introduction ought to answer the question, why should I listen to you today? Why should I listen to you today? And in the first 2 minutes of your study, you should answer that question to your students. You should assume that they are easily bored. You should assume that they are easily distracted and you want to capture them. You see, there's two ways to capture people's attention, illustrated by two children's shows. One is Sesame Street, that has lots of flash and dance and lots of moving objects and lots of colorful things and things that move around and so on. And that's one way of keeping people's attention. It's not an altogether bad thing to have some objects lessons and to use your voice and to walk around the room and to do some things that would get their attention. But I think the more important way, the better way really, is the Blues Clues way. And that is to give them a question, that they want to try to see if we can get the answer to. The question we want to look at today is, have you committed the unpardonable sin? How do you know that you have not committed the unpardonable sin? And what is the unpardonable sin? And if you'll begin your lesson that way, I think it will grab people's attention because they want to listen to you all during this hour to know, what does the Bible say about the unpardonable sin? And this is the first of